6 p.m. in Gaoundéré, the Adamawa region of Cameroon. Same time right here in Akwa-Douala. Good evening, dear viewers of Equinoxe Television, and thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. Our major stories tonight: Cameroon is sinking deeper into debt, and the opposition leader Christian Timban Bomo is sounding the alarm. The government recently borrowed 415 billion francs CFA at a whopping 10% interest rate, repayable over 7 years. Bomo calls it a scandal, questioning the terms and impact on the country's economy. And in sports, the Confederation of African Football, CAF, imposes sanctions on Senegal and Morocco for the dramatic AFCON 2025 final. The disciplinary committee has handed out fines and suspensions to key figures from both teams. We'll be revealing to you details on the decision taken by the disciplinary committee. Those are top stories tonight. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for staying with us. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. Begin this newscast in Yaoundé, the central region of Cameroon, where a man suspected of killing a woman has been arrested and is being investigated. The suspect, allegedly Sebastien Nincher, was presented to the public during a reconstruction of the crime. The victim, Beatrice Meka, was in her early 40s, as Malaglory tells us.
Sebastien Nietzsche escaped death thanks to the presence of gendarme officers who seized him from the angry population during the reconstruction of facts related to his suspected crime.
C'est les mêmes gens qui vont aussi là-bas. Ils vont aussi, on est allé aussi agresser avec les mêmes masques. De l'autre côté, c'est toi.
He escaped from prison last December after he was accused of killing Madame Beatrice Meka in the Odza neighborhood, precisely at the place called Plaque LMB in Yaoundé.
Dans la nuit du 20 au 21.
The night of 20th and 21st, Madame Beatrice Meka was attacked by a suspected armed robber who was about to steal her money. As she resisted, she was stabbed to death, leaving her children alone.
Et ses enfants étaient abandonnés à eux-mêmes.
The suspect breached the wall of the building to reach the victim.
Son exploitation nous a permis de...
Following our investigation, we later discovered he escaped from Abongbang prison and who had no precise direction, just decided to attack this building.
S'attaquer à cette villa.
Family members testified that the victim crawled like a baby, screaming for help until she ended up dying on the spot, an incident that is still a shock to the owner of this building.
C'est très difficile, vous retrouvez qu'on a tué votre belle-mère dans votre maison. Nous sommes en Afrique, vous pouvez imaginer tout ce qui peut se...
It's really sad that you get to lose your own mother-in-law in your house. In African context, it won't be easy to explain for family to understand.
Au travail, lorsque nous les avons saisis par rapport à ce cas de meurtre, et qui en 2-3 semaines a pu mettre la main sur ce meurtrier.
According to sources, the suspected young man is a serial killer as he has been jailed 4 times for related cases. In his last operation, he crippled a Chinese businessman and made away with a sum of 12 million francs CFA. He was arrested and detained at the Abongbang prison, where he later escaped to kill the poor woman, Beatrice Meka, in Yaoundé.
And drivers and traders of the Bafoussam Bamungum Motor Park in Bafoussam, the west region of Cameroon, have denounced the neglected, dusty, and also deplorable state of the motor park serving Bamenda, Buda, Chang, and other major towns. They say the authorities prematurely sent them to a motor park that does not have basic facilities, making the activities very difficult. They are also questioning the whereabouts of money which they pay as park fees every day. Details with our reporter, Fomi Armstrong Sanda.
Regardez-moi, je suis comme ça comment? Regardez mes pieds.
An angry user decrying the dusty state of the Bafoussam Bamungum Motor Park in the West region. Like him, his co-drivers and traders say that the space is not worthy of a motor park. It is, however, what municipal authorities offer to serve as a motor park for vehicles coming from Bamenda, Buda, Chang and neighboring localities to the West Regional Chief Town, Bafoussam. Traders and drivers blame municipal authorities of prematurely pushing them to this park without adequate facilities. We constructed these makeshift structures ourselves, and now they are no rest places for passengers, and when it rains, we are all stranded here. They say that everyone who comes to the motor park lives with dusty dresses and feet. Car owners say that dusting their vehicles every hour has become a routine, and even with that, their passengers continue to express discomfort. As an economic consequence, drivers say that travelers and passengers no longer want to come to the motorbike because of the dusty state. Most travelers, according to them, prefer to stay at Carrefour Chang. Users therefore say that they refuse to continue to operate in this deplorable condition, questioning the whereabouts of the much sums of money that they pay to municipal authorities as park and loading fees on daily basis.
For me, Armstrong Sander reporting there. Lawyer and executive president of Heritage Party, Christian Timban Bomo, has raised grave concerns about what he qualifies as a scandal in Cameroon. The government's decision to borrow a huge sum of money amounting to 415 billion francs CFA at a high interest rate of 10%. He's also concerned about the long payment period extending across 7 years. To him, this is scandalous. More with Babila Jonathan.
After a Comating newspaper reported that Cameroon has just launched an international bond issue called Eurobonds to raise $750 million, the equivalent of 415 billion francs CFA, it has been qualified by observers as a scandal. The scandal lies in the interest rate of 10.125% and the payment period of 7 years seen as extremely long. The president of Heritage Party, Barrister Timban Bomo, decries what he calls a prohibitive interest rate. A rate of 10% or 125% is considered abnormal, while other African countries like Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire borrow on international markets at reasonable interest rates of 5 to 6%. For 415 billion francs CFA, Cameroon will have to repay approximately 400 billion francs CFA, which is roughly equivalent to $724 million. He also points to the fact that interest on government bonds is compounded or accrued. In other words, the interest earned in 1 year is capitalized or included in the debt amount the following year. The longer the payment period or years, the larger the debt becomes. He thus questions why the Cameroon government accepted the long repayment period, especially with such a high interest rate. According to him, it opens the door to all sorts of suspicions about Cameroonian debt trafficking with the curious lenders and investors. Barrister Timban goes further to say Cameroonians should know that there are criminal organizations in the world called vulture funds benefiting from the complicity of public officials which buy up the debts of state with a high risk of insolvency, such as Cameroon, from international private lenders at low rates in order to be paid later at high rates.
And now, Cameroon's Minister of Finance has launched a crackdown on ghost workers, sending a note to his colleagues, including the Minister of Higher Education, about employees collecting salaries without showing up to work. This operation targets all ministries aiming to tackle payroll fraud and also optimize public resources. Lo Magneru has more on this story.
It is from this note of the Minister of Finance addressed to his colleague, the Minister of Higher Education, Professor Jacques Famdongo, since December 11, 2025, to make mention of the notice absence of 433 agents of his department perceiving salaries while not being on duty in the national territory. The publication of this list led to many grievances, among them those who are constantly on duty, were surprised to see their names figure on this list.
Pour moi, c'est un choc important de voir sur la liste des...
I'm so surprised to see my name figured on the list of lecturers out of the country while I'm being on duty in my different universities without any interruption. All my trips out of the country were well notified by my different universities. My colleague and I hope that this error will be identified and be corrected. Professor Owonangini, Viviane Ondua, Corinne Esse, and many others are trapped in this survey error, although their absence was notified only for professional purpose. Getting to know more on the situation, the best source is at the Ministry of Higher Education, where investigations are still ongoing concerning the affair of 433 agents. The rectors of the state universities are working on elements to justify this list. Reports are expected on the table of the minister latest on Friday. This list was justified by the statistic of the in and out movement of this agent at the different airports of Cameroon, which is clearly mentioned on the correspondence of the Minister of Finance addressed to the Minister of Higher Education. The agent unjustly accused denounced this clumsiness, while those implicated, their names are not found on the list. In total, 10,950 public agents are targeted for this operation in the Ministry of Finance.
Onto something else, Cameroon loses billions of francs CFA annually to smuggling, with many pointing fingers at custom officers at the borders. However, economist Edmond Kwate argues that the limited financial resources allocated to patrol the country's extensive borders with neighboring countries are a significant contributing factor. Details with Innocent Aze.
The phenomenon of smuggling contraband goods into Cameroon is far from ending. Its persistence causes the Cameroonian economy to incur losses in billions of francs CFA annually, according to Edmond Kwate, an economist. We cannot immediately accuse custom personnel at the border with neighboring countries without first and foremost looking at the limited financial means put at their disposal to effectively control at the long borders with Nigeria, Chad and the Central African Republic to prevent smuggling of contraband goods into the Cameroonian economy.
Également du côté Tchad, il faut contrôler également les frontières de chocolat.
It is thus imperative for the customs administration to multiply strategies and actions that will frustrate fraudulent economic operators.
Ce que nous demandons,
according to Edmond Kwate, this will necessitate the consumption of quality goods.
La portion véritablement la plus congrue possible, en sorte que les Camerounais puissent avoir accès à des produits de qualité.
The role of the Cameroonian customs was once more saluted by government authorities on the occasion of the International Customs Day celebration on January 26. The economist Edmond Kwate acknowledges that the customs is not solely an instrument of development, economic and finance. It is also a security instrument that controls all what enters and goes out of Cameroon.
Régule tout ce qui entre et tout ce qui sort du Cameroun.
Despite its limitations, the Cameroonian customs stands firm to save billions of francs CFA that could sink into smuggling of contraband goods or illegal trades.
Now let's take this brief streaming into our newsroom concerning the Douala Port Authority and Société Générale de Surveillance SGS affair. The Prime Minister has instructed that the SGS contract be continued in accordance with the law, as the contract was signed with the government and no other entity has a power to cancel it. This was the outcome of the emergency meeting chaired by the Prime Minister, Chief Joseph John Gute, which was attended by all stakeholders. And now we talk sports. The Confederation of African Football (CAF) has imposed heavy sanctions on Senegal and Morocco following the chaotic Africa Cup of Nations final. The decision of the jury was made public on Wednesday after both federations were called up for questioning. Smaji Kangere read through the decision and put together the following report.
Contrary to several suggestions and an appeal from the Royal Moroccan Football Federation that Senegal should be stripped of their title because they walk off the pitch during the final of the 35th edition of the AFCON, the Disciplinary Commission of CAF has simply rejected it and sanctioned the two national selections with huge amounts of money to be coughed out. For the champions, Senegal, the jury suspended head coach of Senegal, Pape Bounata, for 5 official CAF matches, and he was fined 60 million francs CFA for disrupting the final. 2 players of Senegal, Iliman Diaye and Ismaila Sarr, were suspended for 2 official CAF matches each for unsporting behavior towards the referee. The Football Federation of Senegal was also sanctioned for not being able to control its supporters. For the misbehavior of supporters, the federation will pay a fine of 180 million francs CFA. Misbehavior of players and staff, the federation was fined 180 million francs CFA, and for general misconduct, the Football Federation of Senegal will pay 9 million francs CFA. The jury also hit hard on the Royal Moroccan Football Federation because of the disorder during the final. Ashraf Hakimi was suspended for 2 official CAF matches, with one of these matches being suspended for 1 year from the date of this decision for his unsporting behavior. Another Moroccan player, Ismail Sabari, was given a 3 official CAF matches suspension for his unsporting behavior. Ismail Sabari was also fined 60 million francs CFA. The Royal Moroccan Football Federation will also pay a fine of 420 million francs CFA for the inappropriate behavior of the stadium's ball boys during the final match. The staff and players of Morocco were also fined 60 million francs CFA for their improper conduct during the final at the VAR area. For the usage of lasers during the final, the Royal Moroccan Football Federation was fined 9 million francs CFA. With the decision of the Disciplinary Commission of CAF already made public, the 2 federations can as well appeal the decision at the highest sports court in Lausanne.
And we will elaborate more on the suspension done by the Confederation of African Football, CAF, in the second part of the news. Stay with us as Talking Point comes up next. My guest tonight on Talking Point is Simon MUKETE, a sports analyst and equally a strategic expert. Good evening. It's a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight.
Thank you very much for this invitation. I always feel very happy to be on Equinoxe and also to give my expertise, my point of view, as we say in French, on what is going on in Cameroon and in Africa. And I think once more, I will do my best to make sure that I give the most honest opinion possible so far as this very critical information is concerned.
Simon MUKETE, Senegalese head coach Pape Thiaw has been suspended from 5 official matches of the Confederation of African Football, and he was equally fined the sum of $100,000 for calling out his players from the pitch. Do you think this sanction is fair considering the context of the game that was played on that day?
Yeah, first of all, I think before answering your question, please, with your permission, I would like to first of all congratulate Morocco for organizing a wonderful competition. It's not always easy, you know. Today it's difficult to get nations who are willing to organize the AFCON because it's a lot of investment to do. It's a serious financial investment to organize an event like this, you know, to bring the whole of Africa and the whole of the world, because AFCON is the 3rd most watched and mobilized sport event in the world. So we appreciate the organization. Definitely, many things went wrong, but I think for this final, what happened during the final, towards the end of the match, had to sanction. I mean, and because what the Senegalese coach did was not correct, following the rules of CAF, by asking the players to leave the pitch and to go to the dressing room. So I think the sanction is okay. For me, I think they would have even given maybe $150,000 or $200,000 a penalty, financial penalty, but the 5 matches are okay. I think they couldn't do a little bit more, and it was correct to punish by the coach because he's the one that asked his players to move out of the pitch. Luckily enough for them, not all the players have left the pitch, so that's why the sanction could not be very, very hard. If all the whole team left the pitch, they would have given the victory to Morocco, because you have to look at the rules. The rules is the rules, no matter how painful they can be, that's the rules. So I think the fact that the captain and some other few players stayed on pitch and they were trying to find a way, thinking of how the way out, that's also what saved Senegal from a heavier sanction, because that would have gone up to the retreat of their corps. And when people misbehave, they have to be punished. That was a misbehavior. While the sporting event where fair play is always, that's what we put forth. Fair play always comes first. So I think by prioritizing fair play and good conduct, CAF, the disciplinary council of CAF did well by sanctioning the Senegalese coach and also putting this penalty, which I think is not enough, because this incident created a lot of other incidents along the pitch where Senegalese players were, the supporters and Moroccan supporters and some of the scouts in the field had a lot of incidents and some a little bit of fighting. But I think today it's important to turn this page. This sanction is really going to make us to turn the page and move to a new page, because it's not good at all for African football. What happened that day wasn't good at all. And I think also, there are some incidents that happen, because normally for that goal and for that penalty, you remember when there's a penalty, is the referee of the VAR that has to call on the referee. But it was a pressure from the public, the pressure from especially Brahim Diaz. That was pressuring the referee, and finally he had to fall into that. He fell into that, and then he had to go and check the VAR, and then we had the penalty. But despite all of this, this gives no reason for the Senegalese coach to send the player out of the team. Man, we are in 2006. We can't have behaviors like that anymore. The rules are there. They were all punished, and there was always you can complain after the match, and that is possible. But okay, we are there. I think we need to turn the page very, very fast, because it wasn't a good image for African football at all.
It's clear that Pap Thiaw went against one of CAF's rules. But then, if you feel cheated at some point, you get frustrated, and the next thing is you find yourself reacting weird. To some analysts, his reaction saved the image of African football. Don't you see some truth in that?
It's difficult when somebody, even if an act can bring positive mood or positive flow, it's not good to encourage actions like that. I think he himself said he was sorry because for what he did, but I think because of the emotion, because of the moment, because of the size of the event, because of all of that, he reacted with very little control. But I think the situation remains the same. You can't really say his act saved the team, but I think also people are pointing a finger at the referee. But I think he also tried to manage that situation, because he could have decided to stop the match right there. So the challenges were there, and he had to take the match till the end. So I think I don't really buy that idea that what he did saved the competition. But I think we shouldn't get into a situation like this anymore. We should organize it very fairly. I know that the Senegalese team was really frustrated, because what we have to say is that when they got into the training session, they were completely abandoned to themselves. So the day before, when they were getting for the finals, they had issues already, which was very clear. And I think on that part, CAF, and especially CAF, because CAF owns the events, they put very little security, because anything would have happened to the Senegalese team, because they were found in the middle of their supporters with very little security, almost no security. I think situations like that had already put the Senegalese team in a lot of tension before really getting into the game. So I think what we have to make sure that CAF has to really make sure that they follow up their organization of the event, the flow of the team, put the security that they need when they get to a situation like this, because they put the train at a public place. You have a lot of people coming in and go, and they would have created a security band, a security trail for them to walk through to their buses. That was not the case. So, I mean, all these final events created a lot of frustration in the Senegalese side. When they were getting to the final, they were already very much frustrated. I remember during the press conference, the national team, Papio, had to speak out with frustration, which was correct, because what happened to them the previous day was not good at all, was not professional on behalf of the CAF, who is the organizer and who owns the event. So I think on that part I can say, yeah, but I don't buy the idea that what they did save the national team, because we should not support wrongdoings, even if we feel that we have been cheated, or that's a feeling, but we have no right to take laws into our hands. I mean, we're living in a world where there are laws, there are rules. We have to abide to the rules. It's very important.
What about the sanction given to the Moroccan Federation? Let me just cite a few. I think it was fined $100,000 for the ball boys' behavior. There are other sanctions too, other fines I may say. And also we had Ashraf Hakimi, who received a 2-match ban. Are these sanctions okay for this team? Do they?
No, I don't think so. For this, I disagree, because I think they would have done more. Because what happened, the destruction that the ball boys and some officials, even some photographers, did. You remember during the Nigerian match, they really distracted the goalkeeper. They took the towel away and things like that. I mean, it was disturbing, because we know how important a towel is to the goalkeeper. And there was raining in Morocco, so you have to clean your gloves, you have to wipe your face. So they were taking the towel away for the goalkeeper to be in a very, very bad condition. If he has water in his face, how can he see the ball coming? So I think this sanction is very, very light. $100,000 to Morocco is not enough. I think CAF was supposed to hit harder, because to serve as a lesson, because we have never witnessed this in any African Nations Cup, where you have ball boys playing against the opponent. This is a very, very bad and poor image. I mean, that tarnishes all what Morocco has invested in welcoming Africa. Just this very little act that impacted the game, because they disturbed and destabilized the players mentally. And there's no Ashkini is a star. He's the figure. He cannot be part of this kind of nonsense. That was the mess. To find him Ashkini, I mean, the best player in Africa, the current best player in Africa, behaving like that. I mean, I think this is not correct. This is not correct. I think if they came to him, there was also a defender who was standing there in front of the goalkeeper, because when Nigeria realized that they were disturbing, they had to send their reserve goalkeeper to go there and keep the towel with him. Can you imagine that? If at least we were in a war zone, the reserve goalkeeper who plays in Nice in France had to keep the towel with him and give it to the goalkeeper whenever Mendy needed the towel. I mean, I can't just believe and imagine this image. I mean, all what we saw on the sideline while the match was still going on, and that the officials could not see that and come and call this situation in order. I think that's why also the officials know about this, because the CAF didn't say a word during that, after the Nigerian game. They didn't say a word to call Moroccan Federation to order to make sure that they stop this nonsense. So CAF, they have to be blamed there, because they never called them to order. It was very clear against the semi-finals match against Nigeria. That's where all started. And they did everything to distract the goalkeeper. So for me, the sanction is not enough. Ashimi was supposed to take at least 5 matches, and also the defender, I've forgotten his name, he was there by the disturbing the goalkeeper as well. He was supposed to take at least 5 matches, and I think the financial sanction was supposed to be at least 3 times, not $100,000. They were supposed to give them at least 3 or 4 times what the financial sanction that they gave them. They were supposed to put them at least $500,000, and then give Ashimi at least 5 matches, and also the defender that was there to distract when you look at the videos. But I think these images are very shameful for Africa, very shameful for Morocco. I hope that during they are going to readjust during the female AFCON that they are hosting as well, because Morocco, they wanted Africa to come to Morocco and celebrate with them, but unfortunately, emotionally, they could not control themselves because they could not make the difference between the host and also the organizing nation.
Simon MUKETE, thank you so much for participating on tonight's edition of Talking Point. And that's what put a cap to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe TV. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful evening in the company of interesting programs on Equinoxe TV. Bye-bye for now.